Welcome to the Starting Over Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Today's a little bit different. I'm going to have two guests on the show, and we're going to talk about the potential of WWE-EEEEEEEEEEEEEE and what does that mean for the future of heroclix. I, of course, have my good friend Will Hollins. Say hello to everybody.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
All right, and I also have a contributor to the show from now and then that's helped out, Mr. Jacob Payne.
Hello, listeners.
There we go. All right. So I have given up on WWE many moons ago when I found out wrestling was fake, and it made me sad, and I walked away. So I'll start off with Jake. What do you think the biggest impact of having WWE-EEEEEEEEE is going to be?
Well, I don't think there's going to be that much of an impact. It's another IP for them to get money from, but they've done different IPs before, the biggest one probably being Star Trek, and it's going to be interesting since they aren't doing Golden Age things anymore. But it's not going to be a huge impact to the game. It's just going to be another product for them to sell.
Okay. All right. So the next question, I'll sort of throw that over to Will. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm thinking more of the potential. And the reason why I said it's because WWE is their own advertisement machine. Does anybody remember there was that thing that they were doing? There was Tout. If you remember that for a short minute in the land of WWE, they were kind of behind that, and they pitched it for a while. It didn't really take off, but they really couldn't tout. They couldn't market tout to children. They could tout, they could market tout more to adults. With this, you could really target it to everybody. With your opportunity for everything from your John Cena's, and your Roman Reignses and all these people who are popular amongst children and women and things like that. And then you've got even your old school products where you can go and do like your Ultimate Warriors, your Macho Man Randy Savages, and different things like that. WWE almost prints money with most of the stuff they're doing. So if WizKids can get WWE to promote the product, I think you'll have a lot more eyes on it. I think that's the difference to me, because WizKids really doesn't need to do much other than get it in the hands of, say, the New Day, and let them do it, open up packs of it on their up, down channel. With their millions of viewers and things like that. So there's a lot of potential for growth in the game with it if they partner with WWE to produce the product, as far as put the product out there.
Okay, so pretty much, my next sort of follow-up question is, do you think that this is going to be, with the influx of WWE fans, do you think that they're going to come in for WWE and stay for the heroclix fun with Superman and Batman and Wolverine? Or do you think it's just going to be like, yeah, they're going to buy the clicks, but they're not going to play. They're going to be like the at-home players. So I'll start with you, Will.
I think you could potentially open up the world to the superheroes. I mean, come on, man. I mean, WWE is pretty much trying to tout real-life superheroes people anyway. I mean, you're in a world where you have a dead man, the devil's favorite son, a guy who has a Superman punch, and, you have a guy that no one can see. So you're already talking about superheroes anyway. And so there's potential there. I think the biggest problem WizKids is going to have is having a system that's simple enough to where anybody that can get into it gets into it.
Okay, Jake, what's your thoughts?
Just really don't like Roman Reigns.
I'm not a fan.
I think, yeah, but now I'm thinking about a John Cena clicks with like traded still. I think it's I think it's interesting, especially where the game's heading at the moment. You'll have an influx of players, and you're right about WWE marketing. And I even mentioned that to Dark Logos before, and it just skipped my mind. You do have a chance to see that like actual heroclix commercial on primetime television for the first time in 16 years, which would be really interesting. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to get people to play the game. I think you will see a lot of WWE fans buying the product because it's little figurines of their favorite wrestlers. Mm-hmm. However, I think the biggest thing is whether it's going to be a standard 5-figure booster or gravity feed. And if it's a gravity feed, I don't think it's going to do that well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's sort of take that into the next step of what would be best to get people that are coming in from WWE to enjoy the property of heroclix, and so that they actually can have a foothold in. Because my concern comes in is we have like a minor boost of people with Street Fighter clicks. But the Street Fighter clicks sucked. They could not compare to normal standard heroclix, and they just
you're thinking of it the wrong way, though. You're thinking of it as a established meta player.
Well, no, I mean, like, just in general, like, even if with most of the casuals that played like the Street Fighter clicks against other casual players. Like the Street
and
Fighter
also,
clicks.
the Street Fighters were never designed to play against anything else. That's not how they design clicks anymore.
Right, and that's one of the problems that I looked at is they weren't designed to really integrate well. But like I would argue is what would be needed to make the WWE the WWE player interested in clicks overall.
Well,
than
just sculpts. Good sculpts. You need actual decent sculpts, not like some of the stuff we've been getting here recently, to draw in the casual player who'd want to buy this just so they can have the display, and then hopefully that would interest them. As far as dial design, you need it to be at least as good as Star Trek and Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. You want your characters to be able to hold their own against other human characters in the game. Because, I mean, John Cena's not going to go over Superman, but, he should at least be able to kind of deal with, like, say, a Nightwing.
See, I don't think they should. I don't think they should care. I think you throw in a 200-point Brock Lesnar and just acknowledge the ridiculousness of having the wrestlers versus the comic book heroes.
Yeah.
Just throw out any concept of like reality.
Well, and WWE has done their own video games and fighting games and stuff like that too. I mean, there's a mobile game that I think's been out for a while, Immortals, and they can literally just do their first run like the Immortals and have all these different characters from the different generations. You can do some different crazy stuff to where you can even go into more of the super-powered, high-powered versions of these guys.
Yeah. Okay, so that sort of leads me into sort of this cross moment of, are we just saying screw it, just might as well make them like super strong, what is that one luchador thing? The Luchador Underground or whatever it is.
Lucha Underground?
Yeah, like make it like it's really Lucha Underground, that this is like for real what they're doing.
You might as well.
Yeah.
It only hurt. Yeah. I don't see any downsides to just letting the pieces stand on their own.
Okay. Now, it sort of leads me to sort of the next question, and I think it's something that we have to look at, which is, are we going to see some sort of like team faction, team ability thing, or are we just going to generically probably see like a WWE team ability and just slap that on like all of them? So this is speculation. So go ahead, yeah. Will, go ahead.
I can see, for example, like factions like the Shield. Maybe, especially since we're getting ready to get SmackDown 1000, you could have Evolution eventually have, you could create team abilities within certain teams without a whole lot of problems, because they just could copy-paste all the other team abilities they have and just put, new symbols out for them. You could have 4 Horsemen team ability, for example. that bring when you have the four horsemen together, and of course, then they can do certain things or whatever. There's ways to do that without totally sitting there making team abilities just for individuals. Like maybe you have a trait with some of the women, the four horsewomen, for example, would have a trait on their cards to where when the four horsewomen are on a team together, they get a certain pluses or bonuses.
Yeah. What about your thoughts, Jake?
I think it's going to be the more trait mechanic or the pay additional point mechanic, just because WizKids does not like making new team abilities and printing new team abilities on dials. However, if it's a gravity feed and it's just 24 figures or whatever, I don't think you're going to see any of that. I think it's just going to be bare bones.
Yeah, I hope they do not do a gravity feed with this. I hope if they're going to do it, they treat it like an actual, 5 booster pack thing myself.
That's what I want, but I'm thinking if you look at WWE and if you look at WizKids, I cannot get the idea out of my head that they're going to be like, they want to shove this at the kiosk at Target where it's at the end of the aisle and like it's just an impulse buy. And I get the feeling that might be what they're going for with this. And at $4, I think there's just no way that flies.
Okay, now that's an interesting sort of thought process, which is I thought like in equivalent to the old like gotcha model, I thought the gravity feed would be something that would get people in. But you all were saying like for people coming in, doing a full set would probably be a better idea.
I think so.
So if you look at merchandising for $4, you can get for less than $4, you get like a pack of Topps trading cards. And if you just want something that displays, your wrestlers, that's what you got. If you look at something that's $12 to $15, like a booster might be, you're looking at an action figure. And these days, not even the good action figures, like the second tier ones.
So your Marvel Legends, are like $20 a piece now.
So if you compare that to like a booster, which gives you 5 detailed sculpts and is in of itself a game, I think a 5-figure booster would do more to, and you see the packs, a 5-figure booster is going to be more exciting in commercials, as you said, if Xavier Woods is opening them up on his channel. Like, I think a 5-figure booster's the way to go.
And, something of what you were saying, too, Jacob, and that's this. You could almost do... Remember the... what was the Batman set that they did that was like that new starter thing where they were trying to do the simpler version a while back? This is years ago. It's like that Batman thing. It was Batman Alpha, and you had one of the figures at the top that was in a clear thing where you could see the figure. I think if you did it like that, where like you were guaranteed to see, say, a Big E or an Undertaker or Shawn Michaels or whatever, and you pick one figure out of that pack and you put it in that little glass case. That way they see it and it fits that impulse buy, but at the same time, it gives you opportunity to have that bit of mystery to it as well. And
or if you're at Target and you see a Fast Forces and it has the Shield versus, whatever tag team they're fighting that year.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be something parents can grab for their kids.
Yeah, the Shield versus whatever Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, and Braun Strowman are. Oh, the Dogs of War.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting with that. So maybe some marketing tactics from the past add in with some current marketing tactics, we could see something quite interesting. So if we did sort of have the look in the box, see the top figure type of thing, you probably could get more people to buy a booster. Hell, if they did that with current heroclix, I know a lot of people would love that for Seal. Like, oh, shoot, I see.
Well, it would just be like 5 figures out of the set. Yeah. And one of those, like, it would not be a exciting figure for players of the game. It would just be something to entice someone to purchase it.
I still think that's a good idea. I mean, like, I don't mean it in the mechanic way, but in the literal way. Like, if you have title name characters, in that little screen, I think that you would actually have something like really cool. So it's like, for me, if I'm like, yo, I see a rock, like, oh yeah, there we go. I'm gonna get that one. I know I'm gonna get a rock. I don't really care.
Well, you look at Magic the Gathering starter sets. You got on the starter, you have the clear view of a planeswalker. So they give you a major character right up front as soon as you pick up the starter to look at.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with a booster.
Yeah, makes sense. And then, I mean, and this is a crazy idea. You could take some of those leftover boxing rings from the con exclusives and retrofit them and make them WWE rings. Put like a little storage box underneath them, and you can put your WWE figures in that little storage box with their own separate ring. You just don't give it rules like the boxing ring.
Or more than likely, WizKids just takes all their extra runs and releases a WWE con exclusive wrestling ring next year.
Yeah, I can see that happening too.
Yeah, and in that way they're not making new product. It's like, let's just slap a sticker on this and go.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. For them to just get like another ring and just put the WWE logo in there, and just make new rules for it, and people would buy it. I think that would be a very interesting thing. So let's sort of move on, and we have a lot of time in terms of like the eras in which WWE, or really pretty much the wrestling sort of thing, has been going on.
Draw from.
Yeah. So when it comes down to like sets, is the best thing to do like say like, hey, here's this is the Attitude Era set, or this is the Glam set, or Blow, or this is the like the new, I wouldn't say New Day, but like just the modern guys type set. Like what would be the best way to sort of clump together the heroclix packaging to make it so that people are interested coming back each time for the WWE property?
I'm going to say the first thing you do is you don't start with that. You start with a WrestleMania set. Okay. And what you do is you take the guys that are in the current WrestleMania that's going on. I think it's the first week of April. Usually it's like the last week of March, first week of April. And so you set up a set for that, and you just primarily focus on the people that are going to be involved. You could have people from NXT. You could have people from, the Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and stuff like that. You do that set first, kind of as an introduction set. Your chases for that first set could be some old school people from the Attitude Era or whatever era. I don't remember what the name of the era. Jacob, maybe you can help me out with this. What was the era before the Attitude Era? Where there's more like Hogan and Savage and Andre the Giant and people like that.
Oh, I don't think it has a particular name.
You could just go with WWF set, because technically it became WWE during the Attitude Era, so you can say WWF.
Yeah.
I was
going to say they legally cannot call it WWF.
Well, right. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot they can't call it that at all. You could say WWE Legends as the chases. You do the first 5 chases in that set as your Legends, and then you go into the next set, and it's WWE Legends. And then you go from like that early 80s era, rock and wrestling, all that stuff, and then you go into the Attitude Era, and then you pick up The Rock, Stone Cold, Brett, and all these guys. And then you go from there to the Ruthless Aggression Era, as they call it, where you have a young Brock Lesnar, young John Cena. Dear God, I can't still believe he came out in, regular wrestling shorts then. Kurt Angles and all that. And then you go from there into the reality era, which we're kind of in now, And so then you could just continue sets. You could do a whole set of the women and just do the women's evolution, and go in and just cover the bases with the ladies, And then by that time you're rotating stuff out. So then you just continue to go back and forth. You could start going, say, you could do the pay-per-view events. You could go SummerSlam, and then each year you could even do some of the WrestleManias and recycle some of your figures as you're rotating other ones out. Your WrestleMania set will kind of be your set to mark your rotation by.
Okay. All right. So I would look at it as, we have different ways of doing it, but go ahead.
Well, I just don't think they're going to do any of that. I think it's going to be a lot more simplistic because they're going after a younger audience. I don't think their goal in this is to sell it to current players. I think they want to get kids to buy this product. Mostly just looking at WWE merchandising, it's all geared towards young people. So I think you're just going to get a generic WWE set that's going to be mostly new people that the current audience is familiar with, and then you're going to get a handful of the bigger stars because they've already said Stone Cold, The Rock, and Trish Stratus are like the three legends they mentioned in the mailer they sent the stores.
Yeah.
I'm with you though. Having, especially if it's a 5-figure set, having theme-specific things, and then filling out the rest with, your more recent roster is probably the smarter way to go. So, like, have a, NWO set. And then on the cover, the booster, you have, the NWO, but then the rest of the set is, a mixture of
WCW characters or something like that. You can even do WCW era stuff.
Yeah, I just don't think you're going to see that sort of hyper focus because that narrows the target audience, and they want this to go to as many people as possible.
And Jacob, you said something in that whole idea of they're aiming at the kids. You know what thought crossed my mind as soon as you said that? These sculpts are going to be tab app sculpts.
Oh no.
Hey. No, you say no, but if you look at the size of those sculpts and the amount of detail they could put on those, and for things that are like larger than life, so say like you had a sculpt that size and that goofy looking, but if it's holding a steel chair or something, it's going to be fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the WWE Network has done whole entire shows aimed at kids in that very claymation style. If you look at a lot of toys for WWE that aren't the regular action figures, they're the small, tiny, big-headed action figures, and they're about the size of a tab app figure. And so, again, I don't necessarily want to see it, but that said, I would not be surprised if they didn't release that. I mean, you got that Camp WWE show, which that show's not really for kids at all, but it has that very simplistic look to it.
Well, and okay. So when we look at that art style form, there's a couple of things that I see that could be issues. Like they did have like a little collectible toy that was
sizes.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, like from a styles perspective. Like I know WWE had like a collectible toy that was probably about like an inch and a half tall. And
are you thinking of Ultimate Muscle?
No, not Ultimate Muscle. But they had like 4 fingers though, and they had.
But they do, yeah.
Yeah, they had that like wide, I'm about to get you type pose on all of them. And
yeah.
So I thought to myself, I'm like, if they backed off, a little bit with that and put, sort of a similar style into the heroclix, I think that'd be interesting.
I think it's going to be normal figures, but they could do interesting stuff with it. That's the interesting thing about the set is there's a lot of potential there, but the cynic in me looks at the merchandising machine that is WWE and thinks they aren't going to go do anything risky with it.
Yeah. Well, and again, you don't have to be risky with it, but at the same time, I think they're going to, because Vince, at the end of the day, Vince wants as many people on the product. I mean, yes, he's targeting it at children, probably more so. But again, you got to remember, moms and dads are the ones that are paying for it.
Yeah.
So, it's that kind of reality too. I mean, it's the debate over, the WWE always talks about, for example, Roman Reigns sells the most shirts. Well, if you have a table full of 20 shirts, and out of those 20, 8 of them are Roman Reigns, then just by sheer number, he's going to sell more shirts because he's got more options.
So you translate that to the game, and that just means you have all these different versions of a single character that they could make.
Mm-hmm.
So the IP does have longevity built into it, even if they never touch on the older stuff. Mm-hmm. You can just make a different version for each time a person tag teams with somebody, or each time the person goes face or heel or does anything. That can just be a new dial.
You could have the Seth Rollins that turned on the Shield. You could have the Seth Rollins that bought in. You could have the Seth Rollins that's now burning it down. For example,
you can have 20 different versions of Kane and Undertaker.
Well, and see, I thought that was one of the incentives with a career length. You have enough events to pull from, and I would just primarily say, how, on the back of some cards it just says like significant episode or issue or whatever. You could just be like, Hell in the Cell or, WrestleMania 84 or whatever. Like,
you could probably do a picture of the actual wrestler because I'm pretty sure WWE owns the likenesses through the different wrestlers and stuff. So you could just do like a screen grab.
Yeah. You could do a chase set in one of the sets of just the multiple faces of Mick Foley. And just have that as chases.
See, I told Dark Logos I want a shifting focus Mick Foley. Yeah.
The infamous Royal Rumble where he came in as all 3 of his personas.
See, and you could have a Royal Rumble set. You could have a Hell in the Cell set. And then they don't even have to worry about making specific themes. They can just name the sets after pay-per-views and put whoever they want in them. Mm-hmm. And fans couldn't complain.
You could have the Hardy Boys from when they were Team Extreme, when they were Hardys, and then you could have Woken Broken Matt Hardy, and Jeff with the, Randy Orton grabbing his earlobe.
And they can be as creative as they want with the dials, which is the main... if you go on Realms, you see a lot of people complaining about, everyone's going to have no range and it's going to be hyper melee focused. And I think this is an IP where the creative teams can actually do a lot of interesting stuff. So I don't think you're going to get a boring set like you did with Street Fighter, which honestly only had, 2-3 interesting characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Street Fighter set broke my heart.
One of the best looking sets we ever got, though.
Yeah, it looked great. It just didn't play well.
Right, and that's the concern I sort of have with WWE is that it'll look great, it won't play well, or it'll just give us a few people that are decent.
If this set looks as good as Street Fighter did, I don't think, but is just as bad dial wise. I don't think WWE would care. I think they'd be even more happy if the figures were that neat looking. Because those would sell out to the casual fans who are just being like, I want to put these up on my shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I think here's the problem. WWE's interest is as long as this thing makes money, man, this is good. I think when it comes back to WizKids, I think it benefits them more if they get active players. I think
WizKids maybe, but not NECA.
I sort of look at a mutual benefit, and the main reason I say that is active players will tend to buy more. Instead of I just have this version of for me, The Rock or John Cena or whatever. It's okay, I got my John Cena, I got my Rock, I'm done. I would want them to be okay, this game is actually pretty cool. I want to play, see if my, John Cena can actually fight against Superman. and which ones can he, beat. And he could. Look, I would prefer if like John Cena was like shifting focus Superman level. Like, oh, cool, I can fight my John Cena versus that, stuff like that.
But the kid who sees this in a commercial and sees the high detailed sculpts of Street Fighter isn't going to be thinking about, oh, this is a game I can play. He's going to be like, I want those figures, and he's going to ask his parents to buy him those figures. The game's going to be a secondary component. And parents aren't going to go online and buy them individually. They're just going to buy, whatever's at the store.
It's gonna be the impulse buy. I had a crazy idea too. How Jacob, you were talking about the impulse buy. You know how Dice Masters now has the little packs that are open and you can see the cards in them and everything. It's like the little team packs that they have now with the dice.
No, I haven't looked at Dice Masters ever. Okay.
Well, they have these things where they have these open packs. You can see the cards, you can see the dice that are in them and all that. You just buy them basically. If you don't have a team and stuff like that, you want to be able to play something. If you had little small packs that had like 3 characters in it, if you remember and I'm going back to old school, thought here. Remember how they had the classics, the heroclix classic packs, so they had the little clear plastic with the 4 in them. You could do a New Day pack. You could do a Shield pack. You could do You could do some tag team packs with just 2 people, and maybe charge like 2 or 3, like $4 for them. And then for the 3 packs, do like 5 or 6.
Well, you just have like one tag team versus the other, and there's your 4 figures.
Yeah.
And then you could do your Attitude Era, and you could have Triple H, Stone Cold, Rock, and Mick Foley.
Yeah. Or like you could do DX versus, say, the Brothers of Destruction.
Yeah.
You could have, Stone Cold and, I don't know, Stone Cold had a few tag team partners, but not many. You could even do, if you wanted to, you could do like Stone Cold and Brian Pillman versus, whoever in that era. You could have the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, you could have Doink the Clown versus whoever.
Who's Doink the Clown?
You could have. That was a character in the 80s.
There's a character in the 80s, named Doink the Clown. He was a clown.
Yep. And there was an evil Doink. And at one point he faced Jerry the King Lawler in a match, and it was him and the Doink and the Dinks, as Doink the Clown and the Dinks. And then he had Jerry Lawler at the King's Court. And it was like midget wrestlers. One was all dressed as clowns, the other was all dressed like Jerry the King Lawler was.
Okay. All right. So let's sort of go into we sort of danced around it. Let's sort of talk about price point. And I would say this. And I'll look better yet. Let me throw this out to you both. We know the cost of heroclix is going to go up. I mean, just politics aside, just inflation plus tariffs equals increase in cost. I don't think we can find, American, manufacturer to make heroclix. So,
Skid's most recent Gravity feed that just came out was a Magic the Gathering like miniatures thing, $4 a booster. So that's probably the standard price point for any Gravity feed coming out now.
Yeah. So let's ask ourselves this. All right. From a price point perspective, what is the best introductory price point for a player to come in with the WWE clicks, and what would be the worst price point?
I think the easiest product to sell would be a Fast Forces or a starter. I don't think they'll put a map back in the Fast Forces, but if they sold a Fast Forces that had a map and a link to the rules, like on the back, so they could go online and look it up with their parents. Like, I think you sell that for $16.99 or whatever, the increase will be. That's probably going to be the thing that they'll push. I think at $4 for a Gravity feed, I don't think that sells when it's right next to like a Topps trading card pack that has 12 cards for $2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way of competing against trading cards directly.
Yeah,
no.
As a price point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your best bet is to do a full figure set with a Fast Forces or starter.
Okay. All right. So, Will, what's your thoughts on this?
I think you kind of have to do some things like, we talked about the whole idea of having tag teams versus each other and things like that. And, some of these, and I don't know if we as kids, how they feel about, I remember back when Titans came out. Was it Titans? Was that the set?
Teen
I think
Titans.
it was. Teen Titans, where you had the little mini maps?
Oh, gosh, no. Good gosh, no.
Okay, so no to the mini maps. Okay, so what?
The
And I was just thinking more along.
maps?
Yeah, but I was thinking more along the lines of you take multiples and you make one big map out of it. I'm not talking about multiple small ones. Like you get each tag team has a specific piece of the map. So if you go and get, say, the New Day, and it's like Kofi Kingston and Big E, and then you get, say, the Bludgeon Brothers, and you get their piece of the map, and then you get, say, Cesaro and Sheamus, you get their piece of the map, and then you get, say, the fourth tag team is whatever tag team on SmackDown you want to throw in there, and then you say, okay, now we got these 4 tag teams, which means now we got this big map to play with. That's a SmackDown ring.
Yeah, I'm not fully in the collect the map thing because the final map will be insanely costed, and if it's used for anything in the game, it'll be even more insanely costed. I do think there are some interesting things, like from a price point perspective, that could be good. I like the tag team booster idea, and I think like a $6.99 or a $7.99 tag team booster, you know what tag team you're getting, so you're paying a little bit more. I think that would be great. I think people will, in each one of those tag teams comes with like a heavy object that's like a chair, or a light object that's like a folding chair, and something like that. And then you could have, I don't want to do like the Marvel Legends have, like you build the Undertaker or something like that, but I do think it would be cool if you did have some mechanic where, let's just say you have like a really big figure, and that really big figure is one pack by itself. So like Kane, the Undertaker, Andre the Giant, I don't know who else. There's a couple, Big Show, like guys like that. They're like their own sort of super booster. But I know that won't happen with clicks.
Yeah.
So I think like a micro tag team thing is the best thematic element that they can do. I unfortunately do think that they'll have to do a starter. I don't think they can do a Fast Forces. They'll have to do a starter.
Yeah. Or you could also do something where, for example, back in the day, again, this is kind of me going back in the day thinking, they used to do the things where if you had the packages or whatever, the UPCs, you set them off and you got something.
No, they never. They never did anything with that though. You had the Phoenix action points. You got a figure out of that.
Yeah, like you got the Phoenix one. There was one where you got so many packs of Armor Wars, and then you tore off the UPCs, and then you sent them in the WizKids. I think you spent like maybe $6 or $8, and you got a Phoenix, not the Dark Phoenix, but the regular Phoenix.
You're talking about a buy it by the brick thing.
Well, not necessarily buy it by the brick. I mean, you got the coupon, and the stores got some of the coupons in there, and it's just that they bought so many packs, because it encouraged the single buying. Because if you bought 12 packs singly, you could send it in. It's also by a certain date, and then you get the figures.
I thought you were talking about
brick, but
I thought you were talking about like the action point things on the bottom
No.
No, that's a long, long time ago in the Great Back Beyond, before the bomb dropped. Like That's
A starter is more than $25. I feel like that is going to put it out of the reach of a parent
Wanting to buy
buy.
for the kids.
Yeah. I feel like $25 is one of those benchmark prices, and when you go higher than that, I don't know if they're going to pick it up when they can, grab two toys, or,
Yeah.
$50 they could grab a video game or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, Jacob, you're saying, when you do a tag team set or whatever, you could do a price point for Fast Forces for maybe 4 figures?
No, I think they have to do a starter.
Do a 6?
They're introducing
a game. Starter. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because they're introducing a game to new players, so they have to have a way to get the rules out there. I like what you're talking about, the HeroClix Classic packs where you have, 4 figures. I just don't know if they're set up for that as far as the factory stuff goes.
Okay.
Because they haven't done that in so long.
Haven't done it in so long. That's true.
That I don't know if they have the capability to even make the clear plastic, boosters anymore.
Okay. Well, and I mean something too. For example, every year with the WWE video games, you have a special edition. Like this year, the WWE 2K19 is the Ric Flair edition. And, you already got all this stuff they throw in there. Anyway, you could have done, if they had already had this contract a year ago, they could have done a very limited edition AJ Styles that you could only get clicked for that, since, he's on the cover. Or you could have got a Ric Flair if the Ric Flair was in the box. Because, with the collector's edition, they have the boxes.
Yeah, you could put a HeroClix in a collector's edition, or you could do, if you buy, so many boosters, you get a piece of DLC or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can cross promote between different WWE brands.
Exactly.
Okay. So
did you pull that super?
Let's think about that real briefly.
Oh.
Let's think about just real briefly. People are playing WWE video game, and out runs out, a HeroClix version of that character. Doing all of the stuff. I think that would be interesting, but
I don't think it's going to be like that. I think, like you see with Assassin's Creed and Totinos, you buy certain packs of Totinos, you get a piece of armor. You buy so many HeroClix boosters, you put in 3 codes, and now John Cena has a special shirt or something.
John Cena has a shirt. Yeah, John Cena has a shirt that says, clicks for all or something like that.
Yeah, I think it'll be much more cynical than something like a 3D model of a HeroClix figure wrestling.
Although we do have big head mode apparently in 2K19, so why not at this point? You got blockheads. You're able to create blockhead versions of wrestlers in 2K19. Why can't we have a HeroClix version at this point?
That series is terrible as a video game, but you would probably see cross promotion.
That's also a sort of another interesting thing. I do want to see what is the full range of the cross promotion, other than WWE commercials potentially, and I don't even know if they've agreed to that. In part of
I have no idea, but WWE loves shilling for products, just like they love getting sponsors. So any new toy line, any new mobile game, any new card product they have, you always see a commercial of it.
Yeah, and you think about even with the mobile games that they have, you have cross promotion potential there too, because they have that WWE. What is it, that little game that they have where you have the little squares and you're moving them? It's kind of like Tetris, but not.
I have no idea. But they could easily make a WWE mobile HeroClix game.
Okay, that part I don't know about. I think that's too many hands in the pot, but let's just say that's possible.
This is arguably the biggest IP they've had. Like, the amount of merchandising that they could get from WWE could be higher than they've gone from Marvel and DC.
Right.
Like, you're just drawing from a wider fan base. Because the target fan base for heroclix has never been young people. But the target fan base for WWE is young people.
Right.
Okay. All right. So let's sort of come back with the implications of WWE targets young people. So is the game... Do you think WizKids making changes... Do you see WizKids making changes to the game to make it more accessible to young people?
Well, they've been claiming that's what they're doing for a long time, but to be honest, they've not managed to figure that out. If the goal is to make things simpler, they haven't really done that with a lot of the dynamics and stuff they've added and the characters that they've created.
Well, I think the game's easy to pick up and understand. There's just a lot of moving parts, so I think that's where the complications come in. Is it's hard to keep track of everything, but the actual core mechanics of the game, moving, attacking, looking at the dial, the reference powers, I think all that is fairly easy for people to wrap their heads around. It's when you combine things, it's like, okay, I'm going to have ID cards, colossal retaliators, a title character on my force, and I'm going to run the Blackbird. That's when you get a lot of stuff thrown at your plate. And so I don't think you'll see WWE clicks with that much extra stuff added to it. I think you'll see characters with just powers, like, a couple of special powers, but I think you'll see more cleaner dials, at least in the first set, that will allow new players to comprehend and, easily understand what's going on.
Oh, so in other words, no Undertaker with 1,000 Druid teams where he's raising the dead every turn.
Yeah, no, you could see traded stealth on John Cena, like I mentioned, way back. You could see something like that, or some sort of leap climb quake power. It's just a really easy thing to look at and understand. It's I move and then I do this.
I can easily see the Undertaker or Kane having the rise from the dead ability, where it's not just stop click. It's
they'll probably have a stop click.
Yeah, I can see the stop click and then some sort
stop
of mechanic.
is in the instructions, and it's a very easy shorthand to represent when they're flat on the mat and they sit up.
Yeah. That I could see where that would definitely represent that happening. I mean, you got, for example, Shawn Michaels doing a sweet chin music, and it should do something like a stunning blow type effect, where if it hits you, you are incapacitated after a hit.
Yeah, and that could be a finisher thing. It's if you hit with this attack, you get an action token. But I think more than likely they'll keep the dial design simpler instead of more complex, but they aren't going to change the rules. And I think that's the key difference, is you can have easier to understand dials with complex rules. Mm-hmm. But if you have complex dials with complex rules, that's too much.
Okay, yeah. So there's a point there that the first set could be... I think there's a point where we could say the first set of WWE should be very simple. Traits in standard powers or a special power, no traits. I think that would probably be the best situation, so that you're able to keep things relatively simple, and then the next set add in some more complicated things, so that you're introducing the people sort of slowly into how the game works. And if they have a good venue in which they're coming into, they'll learn, what's next. They're bound to, play some like one of the 80 different Avenger sets that will come out, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and then as far as drawing in a more collective, like the older collectible crowd that are going to want those, hyper-specific version of WWE characters, that's where you have your con exclusives, that's where you have your chases, but you keep the set geared towards, the young audience, and draw them in, and then once they're playing the game, if it shows that like they are playing the game, that's when you start introducing them to bigger ideas.
Yeah, like you could have a con exclusive John Cena that's the 16-time world champion John Cena, and then he is the ultimate version of John Cena, that just fires on all cylinders.
Because like as much as I would like, Dusty Rhodes or Andre the Giant,
yes.
A 12-year-old's not going to know who they are or really care. But if you have like a Dusty Rhodes con exclusive, the more older fans, the fans that have the money to throw down or travel to get the collectible stuff, that's where you get that money.
Yeah, because I would be one of the ones that would probably be wanting to go buy Dusty Rhodes. I remember watching him back when it was at Mid-South wrestling with Dan Lawler. And I'd just be listening to him running around. He was the whitest black dude I think I ever heard in my life. Like he spoke and he'd just be like, "All right now, baby, you need to go and put that in your pronoun section, darling. And I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna be. I've winded down the kings, the queens, and 8 and alleys and poker beads." And I'm just sitting there going, "Dude, he sounds like my uncle."
All right, so let's sort of expand it, and we talked about it briefly before about potentially seeing at the con exclusive WWE wrestling ring as something that's viable. What other?
That was just the cynic in me, thinking about WizKids trying to save a buck.
Well, okay, but let's ask ourselves this. Outside of standard figures, what else could they introduce into heroclix that everybody would have been like, well, yeah, that was awesome.
Special objects.
Okay, there we go. Go ahead and elaborate, because I think that would be a good thing.
So you got, really basic stuff that they either do special objects, or if they do a starter, they need to be the actual pictures on the objects. You got your chairs, you got your tables, you got your ladders, you got, the announcer's table, you got trash cans, you got kendo sticks, you got all your basic, weaponry that they use in fights, but then you got titles. So you could have, the title belts be a special object that can be equipped, and then, they can grant, a certain bonus or something.
Okay, I like that.
You can have the Money in the Bank case. You can put that in as a special object. You could have a special power that if you ever get the Dudley Boys as a tag team pack, which that would probably be more con exclusive, you could literally just have a special power called Devon Get the Tables. And then they automatically bring in a table with them.
Yeah. And then and that's also interesting, idea as far as tag teams is actually having powers or special objects that would require you to use 2 people at once for tag team moves and stuff.
Yeah. But then also, I think an interesting thing would be you have, because I know WizKids has tried to do the smaller vehicles and things like that. I mean, you have moments case in point, the beer truck with Austin. Although I don't know if that would be something that you're going to offer to the general public. But you have milk truck with Kurt. Yeah. You have the car with John Cena's intro. You have the druids with Undertaker's multiple intros. You can even have a manager dynamic where you could have, say, a $1 Million Man or
Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman.
You could have a 25-point manager figure that grants buffs to, certain figures. You could do special maps to represent different rings and stuff. So you could have, a tables, ladders, chairs map that you pay 5 points, kind of like the Batman map that just came out, and you can generate objects and stuff like that.
Yeah. You could even have Eddie Guerrero's car, and have Eddie be able to drive the car. Eddie or Batista be the only two to be able to drive it. And they get buffs whenever they drive. They use the car to come in, the intro. You could have intro points or whatever, for certain intros.
Yeah. I think that's where it gets interesting, because the one I remember, like as a kid, there was a fight outside, and then someone was trying to get into the ambulance, and they took them out of the ambulance and beat them up and stuff. So I think that's a good, like, I would say good spread of like mechanics that we can see added into the game, because I think that would actually make everything a lot more interesting, because we are sort of seeing this rebirth of special objects, and special objects just yells to be, married to WWE. And I think that's one thing that could increase sales. Like inside of every pack, or, every other pack, or 1 in 3 packs, you have a chance of pulling out like a steel chair, and it has, special rules on that. Or, the 2x4, or, give you one time to do incapacitate plus your printed damage. Like, I see
then you have
stuff like that.
You have character specific stuff that you could have, like they did with Thor, where you could have, like Jake the Snake Roberts comes with a, snake object.
Yeah.
Or, Mr. Sacco with Mankind.
Oh gosh.
Things like that.
Or Barbie with Mick Foley, or the 4x4 for Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then you could even do, like, if they go the route of doing, like, focus on specific packs, you could do a pack that has like 2 characters. You could do a Fast Forces that has 2 characters in it, but all the other spots are special objects. So you can do like a hardcore match Fast Forces that has 2 characters, but then like a bunch of items they could use in the match.
Dude, I just thought about something else too. You could do confrontation 2-packs as well. You could have like a Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. You could have a John Cena versus Triple H. You could have an Undertaker versus Kane. You could have these classic confrontations where you get 2 characters in a pack that have fought each other. Hulk Hogan versus Andre. Dusty Rhodes versus Ric Flair. You could have Macho Man versus the Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. You have all these different, just call them classic confrontation packs.
And then you can do the same thing with, the modern stuff.
Ooh, arch enemies.
Yeah.
Man, I've been wanting them to bring that. I've been wanting them to do a whole set that's nothing but arch enemies for a while, so you could totally do that.
Okay. All right, so let's begin to wrap this up a little bit. Let's sort of go around and just sort of state our biggest hopes and our biggest fears for WWE Clicks. And I'll let you start off, Jake.
I think my biggest fear is that it will be a cynical cash grab, and that NECA and WWE aren't going to let WizKids try and do anything creative with it. That it's just going to be something, a gravity feed you'll see at the end of Target, trying to get the impulse buyout of parents.
Okay.
So go ahead, Will. What's your thoughts?
My hopes is that we get a Braun Strowman that has a special power that says, "I'm not finished with you yet," or something like that. I hope we get classic stuff. I mean, I'd love to see WCW, WWE, different eras of it. But then my main fear is that they'll start producing this and people will feel like it's not making enough money and they'll kill it. Like a lot of stuff. Like, Heroclix kind of went through that mode where we had it and then it was done. Other licenses that have gone through in the past and then have just dropped off the face of the earth that we haven't seen anymore. Street Fighter was supposed to have a sequel that we never got. And so, it's just, whatever they get a new IP, it doesn't feel like, Star Trek, we're kind of getting more of it, But I mean, we had ship battles too. Don't forget that. You know, we had the ship battle thing that lasted maybe 2 sets, and then it died. You know, so I'm just hoping that if they're going to do it, they do it for a while.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, we had 4 sets of the tactics set, and it died because it wasn't designed, and they even said in the rules, you can't play these alongside the other heroclix. If they do that for WWE, it will not last, because it will not be bought by, the players of the game. It'll only be bought by WWE fans.
Yeah, that's true. And you got to remember, a lot of these hardcore players that we have, they got kids too.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a great IP for WizKids to pick up because the amount of crossover that's already in there between HeroClix fans and WWE fans is huge.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a lot of people interested.
Yeah. I mean, goodness, man, they could even do a WWE set of just WWE characters in movies. You know, you could have, the Macho Man from Spider-Man be in there and be like, oh, yeah, Bone Saw's ready, yeah. That type of thing.
Yeah, I think my biggest hope is that we get, some cool characters with unique abilities that we've seen before, maybe a little bit more balanced versions of some things that we've seen before, or interesting new interpretations of things we've seen before. And most importantly, I'm sort of hyped on the objects. I think the objects is where I think WWE could come out and be something like Hammer of Thor. Not Hammer of Thor, the Mighty Thor. And get like all the players that are and collectors interested in it.
If they put out another like old school action pack with the 3D objects and they were just as useful, that would be a huge seller in the competitive scene.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I also my worst fear is that everything in it is something similar to What If. Like at the top is like 5 stop click Undertaker, and he's your man, and the stop clicks are all on attack. So Green Arrow just says, he says suck it to Green Arrow, and or John Cena that has 5 stop clicks, something like that. And he's 300 points, and you can't kill him, because he has like impervious, the stop clicks plus he has something where. He scares the crap out of you. You have to roll to see if you can even attack him. Like things like that, I wouldn't want it to be like that, where there's too much of an extreme between the figures. I want to see really good stuff. Now, the cash in and the hey, let's just throw something out there too. I hate to say it, I'm with that fear as well, but eventually that will come. Like, everybody's looked at a set and just said, like, oh, yeah, they just threw that together. They didn't really put any care into that set.
It's called Battle World. Hey-o!
There we go. All right. So...
shots fired.
Edward, do we get
the... is another podcast. It's not the Shots Fired.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Do we get to give our dream figure? Like one figure, if we could have any figure, we could decide a figure. Do we get to do like one figure?
Okay, go
ahead. Piece?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I want to hear yours first, because I want to hear your version of The Rock.
Oh.
I'll go second, sir.
All right. So if I can make The Rock, all right, first off, he would be like classic Rock with hair. It's not new Rock with no hair. So classic Rock with hair, and then he would have his first power. Like starting off, he would be like have that Superman charge from the Batman animated series, where he has like hypersonic speed, but he only can make close combat actions. He only do it once per game. Other than that, he gets charged. Okay. So I would want him to do that because he always like ran in and then like slid and then got inside the ring. And then I want him to have an ability that says like speech from the what's that called? Not from turnbuckle. What the hell is it? Anyway, like when you remember the one time he like just got up onto the ropes. And then he just had that the best monologue ever about you all hate me, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
That monologue, I want whatever that monologue's like first few words would be, and it's like, and that be his defense power for like the first like 2 clicks, and it would be like Rock takes a maximum 1 damage. Like I just want that, and you know you could say like, well, why don't you just make it a stop click? I'm like, no. I just want to say like he takes a maximum 1 damage. So if you flurry him, you can just like knock him through that. And then I want there to be something where it's like epic actions, but it's called finisher. And you know, you have to have like some requirement where you only can do it if you're not on click 1 or something like that. And I want it to
if
be
your opponent has 2 action tokens or something.
Yeah, or your opponent has 2 action tokens, and you have can you smell what the Rock is cooking? And I want you
not the People's Elbow.
No, I don't.
Or the Rock Bottom.
No,
or just call it the most electrifying move.
Yes,
sports and entertainment.
Yeah, the most electrifying move in entertainment. Okay, I'll have him do that, and then you know he'll remove his ultimate or his finisher, and if he does it, it would be like equivalent to like capture, where if he incapacitates you, that you can't move, you can't go anywhere, and if you stay there for 2 turns or whatever, if you can't, and he has plasticity, so if you can't be moved or placed, so you have to break away. But if he tags you and hits you with that, you're removed. The figure is removed from the game and is scored if you're there for 2 turns.
Oh wow,
that's what I want. So you have like 1 chance to just get the heck out, and if you fail that, he pins you. You're done. But that's like 150 to 200 point figure right there. So
right.
Yeah. So
okay,
Will, what's yours?
So mine, I love Daniel Bryan. I've been a Daniel Bryan fan since back in the days when he was at ROH. I think the first thing he should get is a trait called the Yes Movement has started. And basically, if a character has any type of sideline characters, they cannot come into the game as long as he's on click like 1 or 2.
Ooh, that would be good.
Because basically the idea is that they're so in love with him when he comes out that they're not going to come in to try to do anything to him. And then you have a special power literally just called his finisher. And I know Daniel Bryan has several, quote, finishers. He could do one that's called like the Master of Submissions. You know, that was the D-Man that did the kind of wrestling effect that he did, where he did a special tie-up deal or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of give him something like that. But then the finish that he needs to have is the running knee that he hit John Cena with in order to get the championship for the first time. Now, I know you can't name it, all of that, but you basically have to do a full-blown charge where it's a full movement charge, and then like he gets a +1. Every turn or whatever, you can spend an action to give him no actions to where he gets a yes token. And then when he does this finisher, he can take yes tokens and add them to his attack. He can max say 3. And so you can do 1 of them for damage and then 2 of them up to 2 for attack or something like that. Or 2 for defense if you want to be more defensive with him the next turn. And he just hits that move, and then it does similar to what you were talking about with the whole, you know, the plasticity. They've got the chance to try to break away, but if they can't, then it's considered a pinfall and they're captured.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Jake,
do like a kick out option.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Jake, what's your figure you make and what would they do?
Well, I think I'm going to make The Miz because he's better than Daniel Bryan.
Well, you know. He has quote beaten him twice technically lately. Although I don't think he's going to beat him overseas. I think that's going to be that Australian show. I think DB pulls that win out.
They drag it out until WrestleMania.
Oh yeah. Well, one way or the other, I think it's going to be him and Miz versus each other for the championship. One way or the other.
It needs to happen. No, if I'm going to make a figure, I think there's a lot of fun stuff you can do. I would love to see like a Dean Ambrose style, but it's like the new Harley Quinn we got, where you roll and it's random to represent his crazier side. But for me, I want to make a Ric Flair clicks, and I want him to have a trait called the dirtiest player in the game.
Yeah.
And I want it to be like a reverse leadership. So if he has a token and he's adjacent to an opposing character, and you roll 5 or 6, you can give them. No, you give them your token.
Oh, nice.
From you give it to them, and it represents him poking him in the eye, or holding up the drawers, or just cheating somehow.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Ric Flair like that. That's more designed around, keeping opponents at bay rather than outright beating them.
Do a style of profiling move.
Yeah.
So would Ric Flair's just special powers just be like, woo?
Like Banshee-esque power, but it's called woo.
Oh, yeah. Ric Flair can use Roll Slave at a rate value of 3, and it can do 4 damage.
Adjacent to an opponent.
Yeah, if he's adjacent to an opponent, yeah.
Because he's in their face. Or you could have the chop.
Yeah, that'd be stupid.
But I think you could do a really good Ric Flair.
Woo!
Woo! All right, and on that note, that'll wrap us up for today. I'd like to thank my guests for coming on and having a good time talking about wrestling. I know I'm a lot late to the party, but I think we added to the conversation on WWE Clicks. So if anything, you can follow me on Twitter. It came from outer space and told me Rock's hair didn't fall out of his head. It went back to where it came from. Space Nebula 532879, where it populates, is bringing a new rock for the future, but it'll be 300 years before we see it. Follow my Twitter, because my Twitter is cooler than I am, and you'll know when a new episode is out. And more importantly, by the time most of you all listen to this, it'll be going into the hurt for the shirt. I know people were probably a little pissed off last week that was the only thing you got for an episode. But yeah, Shots Fired had created a nice little conversation about their tournament. So hurt for the shirt was made. And I look forward to seeing who's going to win in this fight between Juggernaut, Clickstoff, Phoenix Nest, and I think Clicksman. So this is probably going to be a bigger deal than what it was before. Also, Rocktober is coming. So there's going to be some interesting stuff for that. And I also have some more questions from the man from Japan. So we're going to have some interesting shows coming up here in the next few weeks. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. Let me know about your hopes and dreams and nightmares about WWE Clicks. And last but not least, if you want to donate to the show, you can head over to startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com, and you'll find a donate button there, and you can donate to the show that way. All right, that's it. I'd like to thank you all for listening. And remember,